Do you know my hat just flew off a little bit ago when I was outside, because where I live at, there's like a lot of traffic, right? And I just wanted to stand outside in the heat for a little bit to get some fresh air. My hat literally blew off my head, in which it fumbled right down into the traffic area where it's congested with traffic. Yes, it did. And so I was standing there like, oh my goodness, these people are probably going to try to swerve not to hit my hat because they see me wanting to get it. Yes, they do. And so, thankful enough, the hat didn't actually get in the area of where somebody could hit it, right? It fumbled and then it stopped just like it is on my head. It set just like this, but down on the actual roadie, right? Street. We call it street. We don't call it really road, but it's set right there. I thought that was so weird and so odd that even a bus, yes, a big old bus came flying through. I'm like, oh, my head is about to be so flat. But it didn't even run it over. So I ended up grabbing it. Somebody let me through to get past it, but it was congested with traffic, let me tell you. I just had to say that. So before I start this video, I just locked it down on my head in case I go back out. But just to throw that out there, if you're ever out somewhere and you got on a cap, any type of cap that's blowable, make sure you lock it down to your head, because if not, it will get away from you. And that can cause an issue. So, this video is pertaining to questioning, seeming outside of the videos I already made, seeming many of us are questioning, even people who are running blogs, questioning various things outside of what I've stated. They're questioning their own whatever on their end. And I'm questioning the family as well as possibilities. So let's question the lighting, such as moonlight. Did you know that the moon, in fact, is its own form of natural light? Despite it not being a light, it actually reflects the sun, which is how it provides light. Yes, it does. That's sciences. So, say if Asia did leave the home at the time of when she left. Let me think. If Asia left her home, say at the time framing of when she left. I'm trying to think of how to say this. If a 9-year-old left at 4 a.m., let's consider, because see, she didn't have a light, so you're in question of how did she see even herself out there? Because to be in that pitch black is to know you can't even possibly even see your own hands, see your own nose, or even see that white that you got on. It depends on the moon. Yes, it does. If you don't have a light, that's why the moon is there. That is why the sun is there. See, people, the average everyday person don't think about this sort of thing, and yet I do, because my brain is a little bit much more forward. Not saying it's more advanced, but to know and understand that you must have something outside to get around in the daytime, because the sun provides the day, right? It's to know you got to be able to see. So if the universe or God, him or herself, didn't design the sun, we wouldn't even be able to see in the time frame of the daylight. Because if that sort of thing wasn't created, we wouldn't have no light at all. The earth, in fact, will be purely black, as in pitch black, as in no lights there, right? That's why we have the sun, as well as to provide heat and other things, because even our body, vitamin D and all that, we need that to survive. All living creatures need the sun. So when the sun is put away at night, but it's still there, yes it is, hidden away, the moon comes up. And that sort of thing has to provide lighting as well. Yes, night. Because even in environments where you go and say no light is anywhere involved, such as a lamp or anything, or lighting for a driveway, you still have to be able to see. So whoever created this planet knew even that you still got to see at night, despite you still needing headlights even at night. The moon and the sun both light up the world for that very purpose. And so, and me saying that, If Asia didn't have no light, if she supposedly left, if she didn't have no light, she had to use some form of something in order to get around and see. And the only thing that I can think of, see, nobody even mentioned this. I didn't see it mentioned anywhere. But I'm into NASA and stuff like that. The, earth sciences and even space, right? The only other thing I can really think that Asia might have to her disposal, if she didn't have candlelight because it was raining, in relation to needing lighting, is the moon. Because the moon is there. Yes, it is. But, and me saying this, if the moon provided Asia, because the moon can actually help you. Yes, it can. There's this thing called the moon phase. Yes, it is. It's in relation to how much a moon is actually lit, as in moon phase illumination. There's percentages in that, because your average person don't know that when the moon is out at night, every night the moon illumination percentage is not the same. It's never the same. It changes day by day. Most people don't know this. And so sometimes the moon illumination can stand at 80%, sometimes 82%, sometimes 65%, sometimes 50%. That's the up and down of the changing of the lighting. Yes, technicalities even in the realm of that, seeing at night, right? Without a light, even without a flashlight. And so, in me saying this, a full moon, you can in fact see in front of you just a little bit. And not only that, you can see your hands, you can possibly see whatever you got on. You can see a little bit out in the distance, but not only that, you can see the glowing of the moon, even if you're near around the woods and say that wooded area, such as the trees, are not blocking the view of the moon. The trees can't be there, is what I'm trying to say. So even if a child was on a rural road, she could in fact be able to see. Yes, she can on a rural road if the moon is turned up percentages in illumination in relation to the moon phase. She could in fact see without a flashlight being there. If say that space has to be open, like say she was supposedly on that rural road, Highway 18, because that's open enough for not the trees to block the actual visibility of the moon itself. That sort of thing can't be covered. That's what I'm trying to say. So people don't really understand moon phase and illumination and how it lights up something, because even some lamps have when you can turn them up and down. This lighting right here, I turn up and down. That's turned up and down to a percentage, just like the moon is. So I took it upon myself to experiment one night. I got in the car and drove over to a lot which is close by, and it's nothing but like the trees are like wooded area. Yes, they are. I was kind of spooked out myself in doing that, but I just wanted to see how much the moon was lit enough for say even a child to see. Because when I went out there, see, a full moon usually stands at 100%, and anything up under that is not considered a full moon, despite it looking like one. And your average person, they don't know that. To have a full moon, the illumination percentage has to stand at 100% precisely, and nothing under that, because anything under that is more so like a half moon phase somewhat. Yes, it is. So when I took the time to experiment myself, to put myself out there when it was a full moon in a pitch black by the area of where it was like precisely dark, right? But I could see the glow of the moon. I had to literally Google. Yes, there's a website called moongiant.com, which tells you the percentages of the moonlight illumination depending on day. What day it is, it tells you the percentage. So on that night when I had did that was in fact April 20, I think that was around April 27th. I got it dated right. So I put myself in the environment to be able to see, as in the vehicle. Yes, being in the vehicle to see, even in that, what could a person have seen? But more so, what could a 9-year-old child have seen? Over here where I'm at, there's in fact dead ends where it's nothing but the trees and like the wooded area, but we're not in a country. But the environment where I was at, there was no lighting. I, in fact, turned the headlights off. Yes, I did, all the way off, just to see. And so that night when I did that, the moon phase illumination stood at 67%. Yes, 67%, but it in fact looked like it was a full-blown full moon, but it wasn't. Because to be at 67% is to know you're a ways off away from 100%. So it looked like a full moon, but it wasn't. I'm repeating, but I want to make sure that that was out there. So, and me saying what I'm saying, let me read what I wrote in my notes. So I said on February 14th, 2000, I actually Googled that, the date as well as the moon phase illumination percentage pertaining to that date to see where the moon actually stood at. Hold on. Oh, you know what? Wait 1 second. Hold on. Let me go back. I mixed my own information in there. That's not right. When I went out, I ain't got my phone. Where's my phone? When I went out, the moon phase illumination wasn't at, let me see. It wasn't at 67%, but it was around that arena. I would actually have to grab my phone, Google moongiant.com, right? I think it was much more higher. Yes, it was. I should edit that part out and redo it, but I'm not. I'm going to leave that. But yes, it was. It was a little bit more higher because I was trying to calculate even that as in a configuration pertaining to Asia in the realm of what the percentages was when she was out. So let me see if I can look that up right quick. Moongiant.com will tell you. It wasn't, matter of fact, it was not, I just messed that up. It wasn't 67% illumination, the moon. It wasn't that on the night I was out. It was in fact that the 67% was that on the day Asia went missing. Yes, it was. But when I was out, the moon phase illumination was much more higher. So that's why I was like, man, I was like, dude, it's a full moon. I said, matter of fact, let me go out in the area right quick and see if I can see how light the actual, hold on, moon giant. If I can see how light it was or possibly was on February 14th. Because if our moon was turned up, yes, in April 27th, around that time period when I took these notes, if our moon was turned up that high and say it was above 67%, which would have been on Valentine's Day 67%, but during the time I went out, if it was higher, then that has to make you question how much could the child have actually been able to see. I want to see when let me go back on the date. Remember this, moongiant.com. It will tell you how lit the moon is. Yes, it will. We're going back in time. '86. Yes, that was it wasn't April 20th. I took the notes for the next day. So this says April 27th, but when I went out, it was April 26th. And the percentage of the illumination stood at 86%, right? When I went out, it looked like a full blast, full blown full moon, which is why I went out, right? But on the day, when I stood out, it was 86% precisely. But when I say that I stood out at 86%, when I Google on February 14th, the moon, as in the moon phase, stood at directly 67% illumination. My 86% illumination standing under the glow of the moon is a ways away from, say, Asia's illumination of 67% back during February 14th, 2000. I kind of was trying to see just a little bit how dark would have it been on her end. Because where I was at, I was like, man, it's like, I'm looking around, right? I could see my hands, I could see my shoes, I could see everything, and no light was surrounding me. That's why when it comes to stuff like this, even with FBI, I'm sure they know. But I don't know if they really study astronomy and stuff like that. Stuff pertaining to space in the realm of the moon, that even that glows for you. Every single day there's a different percentage, right? But say seen at night, because if I was able to see as much as I was, then if Asia left her house, there's a possibility that even she was able to see the detail on the road, but not completely clear, but just enough to get by, to go along her little walk, in which I don't think she took. But I had to just put this out there because even the average person doesn't realize this sort of thing. The moon being lighting for you. Okay, so I said on February 14th, the moon, as in the moon phase, stood at directly 67% illumination. I stated that. I said I myself don't fully know just how lit that is at night, even in pitch black, enough to illuminate a road before you. But I did experiment just to see, right? Because yes, a moon is in fact light, and it does light a road. It lights it somewhat. Yes, it does, if no trees are obstructing the view. Because I even that same night, there is, where I live at, there's like an opening space, right, where you can go on the other side of where I live at, right? But I wanted to see, because the building actually obstructs, because it's tall. So it would in fact obstruct the view, but I want to see if it would say somewhat obstruct the moon, and it did. So in it obstructing the moon, you couldn't see anything but pitch black. That's why if Asia was, say supposedly, if she left, if she did that sort of thing, and the moon stood at the 67% illumination, as in the lighting, she could have possibly been able to see along on that road. Possibly, yes. I always say I don't think so, that she left. But if nothing is obstructing the moon, as in the trees, then you can in fact see. Yes, it is. Because even 67% in illumination is slightly high. Remember, it's over 50%. 50% stands at half. And yet to go up a few notches, you are in fact on your way. Yep, because see, a rural road is in fact parted. Trees would probably stand on either side, but they're more likely really not going to be that tall to block the view of the moon, because the moon is high. But the building where I'm at, I didn't pull myself far enough back away from the building to be able to see, because see, there's even dimensions in that. The closer you are to something, the less that you can see in the room of. If I'm standing by some trees and they're obstructing the moon, if they're that tall, then yes, they can, right? If I'm standing by a building and it's obstructing the moon, then more than likely that is going to in fact block my vision. But if I'm pulled back away from those trees as I'm walking on a path, that sort of thing more than likely can't block my view, as in my visibility, depending on the moon illumination percentage, because I'm further back from whatever that is that can block that view. See, if a young child was going along Highway 18, right? If she was walking along on Highway 18, she more than likely wouldn't have been walking on the road itself, I don't think. I think she would kind of use common sense to walk somewhat on the side of it. But there's even distance in that, as in where the moon is positioned from far away. The moon being positioned way out there, right? It's going to shine in, just like the sun does, because it's serving its purpose in even doing that, right? So to be on the side of the road like that is to say, okay, there's distance involved, with even the child being able to see even that white marker to stay on the outside of it, and not be inside the marker, because that puts you inside of the road, right? the moon would in fact glow even that up slightly, but not all the way. It will make you see just a little bit of, say, just a reflection, not reflection even, really just a little bit whiteness of even the dot or something. But to have a straight line like that is to see it while you're making your way through, because illumination plays in even that. See, a moon is not going to almost reflect something. It's only there to reflect the sun in a sense. Because remember, the sun is gone, but it's still there. Yes, it is. Right? But the moon's position is not to be set there to reflect roads and all that other stuff. It's just there so you can gain traction and footprint making your way to where you gotta go. So, and me saying that, let me think. Because see, the day before that Asia left, as well as the day after, once again, that moon phase illumination percentage more than likely did not stand the same, because as I stated before, and I'm repeating, this needs to be heard, every day the moon phase illumination percentage is never the same. It's always changing. One day it can be 60%. The next day it might drop to 52%. After that it can drop up to 86%. And you finding your way will possibly be just that. But to get lost in some trees, I got to point this out as well. For a child to say, be under the moon, turned up at 67% illumination, that sort of thing is not going to help her in trees. It can't. Because trees, even that, stand in her way. As in, I'm thinking that would in fact block the view, which I spoke on. The further you go into some trees, more likely you're going to get lost in the dark. But not only that, you're going to be fumbling everywhere, but the moon as well. The moon is not going to even be able to see its way through to help you even in the woods. It can't. Despite it standing that far out in the position of which it is, something has to be more open. That's why I spoke about the road. If she was on the road, seen by eyewitnesses. Yep, because see, 67% illumination is in fact 67% illumination pertaining to the moon phase and the moon being lit. That's in fact 33% away from 100%. That's slight. That 33% is slight, but depending on the atmosphere of which she was, only that will be able to speak. I'm saying only FBI, they would in fact have to, put themselves in the environment again once it's nighttime. Yes, only FBI will be able to do that. Put themselves in that same atmosphere where Asia was and scope out the atmosphere again when illumination is set at 67%. Because just because FBI went out there, they went out there in the daytime looking and checking, right? Plus they know how it get dark at night. But I'm sure even FBI, as strange as it sounds, yes, as strange as it sounds, I'm sure the FBI possibly didn't consider that the moon might have been turned up either a little bit more than when they went out there trying to find her, even at night. If they took the time, I don't know if FBI went out there at night trying to find her, but any day that an FBI would even drive his patrol car on Highway 18, he may or may not know that the lighting is different on different days pertaining to the moon. If even he was to switch out his headlights, the FBI, I'm saying, if even they was to do that, I'm thinking they have to know that, because that's an earth science. But I don't even know if FBI take that up in their classes. I would think they have to, because even that involves crime, seen in the dark, right? This is a good example. It really is. Yes, it is. So, because see, it's so important for me to say all this if the young girl did leave, because we do have to count moon into this as well. Yes, we do, because it's dark, right? And so depending on when the sun sets and all that, right? Even FBI, yes, they have to know. Let me rewind back. Even FBI has to know that the moon is set entirely different on different days. So you got to consider that in your examination in the realm of the positioning of even the moon itself, as in the direction and how it's going to glow, as in set up something. Because I don't even think or know fully on myself if the moon is positioned even differently on different days. See, even that has to be put in with FBI notes. Yes, it is. That's why they need to see this in order to put that through, because the sight see is to just do that. And yet I ain't blind in no shape or form, but I had to even look even into that because I love sciences. To sight see. Why am I bringing this up? Because I want a telescope. I want so badly to get an RV and go all the way out to Arizona, right, where nothing is, and possibly have enough lighting around me, right, to live and tell about. But I want a telescope so I can look up. Stephen Hawking was my favorite dude. Yes, rest in peace, Stephen Hawking. I loved him so much, and I was so sad when he died. Because even hopelessness stands in that for many people that had various diseases and yet followed the man. Because he was genius. But I want a telescope. So, because see, FBI is trying to figure out how was this young child able to see. And I just told you. As in the explanation, if she would have left, she could have possibly seen. They would have to bring a whole different task force, yes, the FBI, and put them on their crew in relation to even the sciences of the moon. And obstructed vision. Even then rain playing in that as well, right? With the moon. Because I myself is questioning, does the moon glow a little bit more despite it raining, or would it go a little bit more dim? I'm into questioning. Because for a moon to be standing at 67% illumination back in the day that the child went missing, that's to say that it was partially lit up as well as partially dim, but not all the way dim. Oh, I just said that about the FBI going out there. The FBI more than likely will pick a day. They will go on moongiant.com. There's more. Even NASA would know about this sort of thing. Yes, they do, because that's their field of work. You know, the FBI would team up possibly with NASA. Somebody that works for NASA that understand what I'm speaking on in the realm of the lighting and how the moon positions. So the FBI would actually pick a good date. Let me explain this. The FBI will pick a good date and time. It has to be still 4 a.m. when the moon is positioned in the same way that it was on February 14, 2000. It has to be positioned in that way as the angle, the aim, and the element, right? Or when she was out there, as well as the percentages have to stand at 67% precise. Only NASA will be able to help them with that sort of thing. The clue. Because if it's anything higher than that, as in the lighting, as well as anything under that, as in the percentage, that in itself is enough to throw police off, as in them getting lost, even in them trying to find out how could she see. That's why I'm saying all this. The numbers have to be precise. It has to be at 67% illumination precisely. And that moon needs to be tilted at the right same angle almost. And if not almost tilted precisely, it has to be somewhat slightly close. Yes, it does. For FBI. Because all of it, everything needs to align. Because even if they're off by percentages, that's not going to point them in the right direction. It's not. Because see, if an FBI go out there and the moon is not positioned completely right in that angle and the percentages are slightly off, that throws the whole game off. As in, it flips the table over and them not being able to see, because you got to be able to see what the child could have possibly saw herself. To think differently is just to say, which is why I've been made fun as a kid, because I don't think like the rest of the average blacks. Many of them are smart, yes they are, but many of them don't think like this, and yet I used to carry and walk around with encyclopedias, as in I wanted to know how the world operated. And I love earthquakes on top of that. So, let me think. Let me say. Hold on, let me go down. Yes, it is. Oh, yep, hold on. The day after. See, I made note of that too. The day after February 14, 2000, when Asia left, the day after, I looked this up. I studied it to find out. The day after she left, on February 15th, now the day she left, how many times did I say it was 67% illumination? On February 15th, the day after, the illumination of the moon was set at 87%. It was much more higher. It was much more closer to what I stood in when I did my experiment to see what she could have saw while she was out there. See what I'm saying? About the days changing, as well as the angle of the moon changing along with illumination. That sort of thing, it changes. It has to. Because see, the point of the moon in the first place is to provide balance. The moon itself tells on itself by providing balance. The moon provides balance in the realm of, it helps keep everything stabilized from even, the earth itself getting out of control. That's why the moon is there too, outside of lighting. It keeps everything stabilized in the realm of us not even falling off of earth, right? Even planets, they serve their purpose as well. Yes, they do. Is the moon a planet? I want you to tell me if the moon is a planet. Everything that's outside of earth, they in fact help position us. That's what I'm trying to say. They help position us. Not only that, they serve the purpose of help keeping us calm in the realm of the earth, not swaying and getting all carried out of way. It's balance in that. Because for one thing to get thrown off is for everything to get blown off a cliff, as in even human life itself. If something shattered the game in the realm of something destabilizing and not remaining stable, yes it is. That's the point of the moon. So let me see. I think that's all for that. I think that's all to be said about that. Because I'm in question of how precise does FBI even study that sort of thing, as in a keynote in the realm of escaping, kidnapping, all that other stuff, crime and solving in connection to the night air and even NASA itself. I'm thinking even that will possibly help what I stated about the moon phase illumination percentages. I think even that will help to solve more crimes, if that's what FBI doesn't already study. That will help to solve more crimes, because that will help to pinpoint whether someone could have been out walking in the dark, or if somebody could have taken them beforehand in a car, or if somebody, say, could have even crept into their window. Because even that you got to be able to see. Yes, that would in fact help solve crimes. If, say, like that whole John Benet Ramsey case, like how that took place. Say if somebody's housing is not lit up on the side, right? On the side of a person's house. And say somebody wanted to take it upon themselves, and even a street light not being there, they want to take it upon themselves to like climb in somebody's bedroom window, right? Despite it might be possibly dark even in a child's bedroom or something, as in the lights is all out and there's no night light, there's no illumination of no kind. Even that can help solve something in the realm of how lit was the moon, just for them to be able to see, as in trying to get in. Because once you get into something, you're totally in, as in a room, right? But you would need something almost illuminated and some complexity just to even be able to see enough to walk around in a bedroom if it's completely dark. sometimes I think the moon, depending on how it's positioned, can even not reflect and not deflect anything. But it will almost be able to provide even lighting to that, depending on how a house is structured, as in the angle of the moon shining down. Even somewhat towards a bedroom window or something. So I had to do that as in a call out. Don't let certain things like that bypass your eyes, because see, some people don't appreciate the smallest things in life, which is why some people don't end up much more further in life, right? But even the moon is something in which we every day take advantage of. We don't see it because it's not there, right? And yet it is. It provides something. Even the moon itself is in fact some form of a shelter. Because remember, it keeps us safe in some form and fashion, right? But to not pay attention to even that being a factor, the moon, is to not know and understand how it could have played a part even in somebody's disappearance. Percentages, Moon Phase Illumination Percentages. Know and understand. Let me think. Because if Highway 18 is that dark, hold on. If Highway 18 is that dark where even truckers can't see, that's what headlights is for, right? But I'm sure even they could possibly somewhat drive in that dark. A truck driver, yes. If nobody else was using that road, I'm just giving an example. If a trucker was out there and say that was a designated road that nobody really used, except for truckers themselves, but it's not really used that often, and say even if they was going to experiment by cutting off the lights on themselves, a truck driver, right? He could in fact see somewhat, depending on the moon. But see, in order for even a trucker to drive like that, the speed limit, I think, of Highway 18, when I looked up, I think it's somewhere around 55 miles an hour. I think that's what a rural road is usually set at, somewhere around 55, 60, 65. A trucker would have, in fact, had to be going at least no more than 5 miles an hour if he don't want to flip over. So let's say possibly 2 miles an hour. Is that even a possibility or probability? In science terms, a trucker could even himself drive in that pitch black, as in being able to turn corners and stuff without flipping over, but he would have to drive once again at 5 miles an hour, because illumination is set at 67%, and so even caution would have to stand in that, as in a truck driver driving. But he will be able to make his way around if no trees is even blocking a trucker. He would. So I can't fully put the pieces together there, as in me being able to see the distance and the dimension of how far off the trees are away from the road, because depending on how close the measurements, as in the distance of the trees, depending on how far off they are away from the road, that's enough to show and tell in itself. And either if you're walking out there, or even if you're driving a car out there, or a truck. Because the moon, once it hits full moon, that sort of thing has a tendency to light everything up. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. If you don't think so, go back to science class and figure it out. Yes, figure it out, because that would in fact amplify. Because when I was out at the time period of when I was out, right, I was looking at my hands. No lights involved. In a locked vehicle. Yes, I did. I had to make sure I was on lock all the way. And not only that, I put myself where there was houses at, but even their lights was out because it was really, really late, right? I don't like atmospheres like that, but to see what somebody could have saw was to do just that. But I was like, man, I would never thought I would have never even thought at this percentage of the moon being lit up, I would even be able to see my own almost fingernails. And yet I could. But I gotta throw this in as well, as if a criminal did that, as in planting that bag the way that they did, I stand to even question of that. Because see, more than likely, he wouldn't have been able to see going into the woods, right? Because that's obstructed vision by the trees if they say didn't use a flashlight, the criminal, right? The moon would have been blocked by the trees, but say in that area where they dug up and put her bag, they possibly could have seen right there. That area. I'm hoping FBI be able to see this video. I might have to send this to them, because I'm thinking, how could you see out in that? And not only that, the person that did it, how could they see? There has to be more to that if they didn't use infrared. What military use. If they didn't use infrared, they had to use something else. But night vision, once again, is there outside of goggles. Outside of goggles in the rim of the moon. A criminal couldn't have been in the woods doing that without some form of infrared if he didn't use a flashlight. No, he couldn't have. But once he was outside of that, say even walking maybe to his car or something crazy, if he didn't use infrared, I'm wondering how open that space was where that contractor was going to pull up whatever to put that house on top. Because even that tells. And the moon, that tells in the moon, in the lighting of the moon. Yes, it does. Because see, the reason why I say that, because that would tell and point enough just to say, could that individual have used the moonlight just enough in percentages to even walk to their own car? And them planning that stuff. That's why I'm in question of how wooded is it in each environment, even around the barn. Or not the barn, the shed. Why did I say the barn? That don't make sense. A barn and a shed is almost close because you're out there in the country, but they're not one and the same. So the shed. Because if that individual is walking around and say it's not completely wooded where they're going, right? But it's wooded right off of Highway 18, but where they're going into is not completely wooded, then that right there shows in the room of examination of where the moon could help have guide them along the way. They would see the moon, once it glows like that, it's not going to show all the way off in the distance where you can see. No, it's not. It's just going to show you just a little bit here and there in front of you. Gotta understand what I'm saying. Scope that out. Because see, that shed, when I looked that up, that shed has a road. This is a very good piece on which I'm speaking on. That shed, they said that shed is off the road or something like that, and it has a road which leads to it, right? So if the moon was set at 67% illumination, that's enough for even whoever did the criminal acts, that's enough for them to even follow that road, even along the way to the shed, without them needing a flashlight. That is off the hook. That is completely off the hook. Because I'm like, dude, like, how else are you able to see? See, nobody in their right mind, unless they're out like camping or out somewhere doing something in that form, you wouldn't want to just be in woods like that just to be in woods. Because even a killer can think he's playing some fun, tacky type of game, right? And get killed himself in the process. Yes, a killer or whatever, whoever the person that took Asia and did whatever schemery that they did, that sort of thing could lead to something like that. So that's why you wouldn't even want to, but a killer don't care. Because for him to even take the time to do that shows just care as it is, I'm thinking. So, back in 2000, infrared was in fact around, because remember, the military has been using it since the beginning of time. I'm gonna have to study that just to see how long military has been. But I seen somewhere, even in a journal, when I was looking up trying to study stuff, that's my position in studying research, right? It's down below, links and everything. I saw somewhere about infrared, as in the boxes. See, nowadays, as technology has advanced, now we have like goggles and infrared imaging devices where you wear that type of stuff. Before technology even have advanced that far, back in the day, supposedly, even in the area of 1968 and even before then, the big military boxes of infrared, it used to be just somewhat of a box, like a toolbox, I guess, that you carried around or whatnot. That, like how men have tools and stuff like that. That sort of thing was military. You could take that box with you wherever you went, being able to see. But now we got goggles and all that other stuff. Cameras, infrared imaging cameras. So, if somebody is able to bury, that's one of the main questions. Yes, that could have in fact been a woodsman, as in them being able to know and get around. But even a woodsman would have to try to be able to navigate himself even in the dark, right? I'm thinking the only way you and I could be able to do that, if we're not used to that, is to use something in which we can see. That's not going to work for me or even you, the viewer, because to get trapped in something is to get mangled in that sort of thing, as in the woods, which awaits you, right? But I'm in question of, even if a woodsman, he would have to somewhat, he would have to know how to navigate through the dark. He would have to know that area, the confines and the space, as well as how to get to that shed. I'm in question of if that was even what type of road that was. Was it a gravel road or was it a paved road? Where the shed was sitting at. Because, let me think. This is just a possibility if a child left. Because if it was gravel, then a child, I can't really see a young Asia. No, I can't. I could see somebody that's maybe 15, 16, 17 taking chances going out even towards a shed. I can't see no young Asia going out towards no shed. Even if it was gravel. But in the dark, I'm thinking even gravel can be seen if the moon is lit up to a certain percentage. It will have to be, because remember, gravel is in fact light. Gravel is almost more like white, like sandy, like white, right? That sort of thing will be able to be seen somewhat of you being able to walk, take a stroll or something. Because even some people I've seen have gravel as a driveway. That's a country thing. Yes, it is. There was a young girl, yes, that I was friends with. We were in our 20s. That's young. That's young. Some of these, you know what, some of these 95-year-old folks out here that are in fact 95, so they think in the mind, and yet they carry themselves. However, some of them are in fact 50 years old, right? Sometimes they want to be old, sometimes they want to be young, right? But even with them, whatever. But with her father, yes, he lived out in the country. That's what I'm saying when I was trying to, this in fact too is what drew me to this case as well, because where she lived at was considered a highway. I'm not going to throw the area out there like that, but it was a 2-lane road. But it was not a highway, it was in fact a country road. And one of the houses that lived where she lived, it lived like far out. Like at night you can see it, and it was the only house right there on that lot full of land. No house could be found anywhere else around that house. It was lit up like bright, like Christmas tree, like, which is possibly why they lit it up, because to be out there and not have another house amongst you is to want to see. So where she lived at when we was younger, I think that was back around 2004, 2005, when I was around her. Her father, even all her family members, I guess that's a country thing or something. Even even her father, everybody lived on the same street, which was strange to me. I'm thinking, why would you want to live next to all your family members? That's in fact strange is what it is. So it was completely strange because, see, to live on the street with all your family members is for them to know all your business and plan it and post it all around town. Yes, people do stuff like that. I couldn't understand, like, why would you want to live next to your what? Why would your father want to live next to all his brothers, cousins, and that don't make, you don't want to do that. Because if you're married and you get in a fight, then all of them know. And they're going to want to come over and possibly even be spending the night so that they can sit and stay up all night and listen to just that, the fighting, commotion. So her father, how it was set up was, he had a gravel type of driveway. And that was strange in itself to me, like, where in fact is the real driveway? That's a country thing. That's a country bumpkin thing. No offense. So when I would get out, because it was so dark, right? And when I would get out the car, I would make sure she would come outside. Yes, I was, because they lived right on the end. These family, they lived on the end where, like I said before, when you would look out, you couldn't see nothing but that house sitting all the way out, all by itself, lit up. I'm thinking to myself, why would you want to live like that? But I would always call her and say, could you come outside to come and get me? Despite me being a tomboy, I need you to come out here. And what was so funny about that and crazy was a simple fact is, it was so country out there. When you would go in their house and hold a conversation on a cell phone, sometimes you would either have to stand in the door or stand in the window just to get good communication and conversation, because to stand anywhere else in the middle and center of that house, your phone would completely drop out in the transmission. Yes, it would. So I would call and say, I need you. And then on top of that too, I would call on the landline, because they had white landline phone, whatever, yellowish white, right? I would call and say, I need you to come out here when I would go over there at night, because I didn't like that. That spooked me out. That spooked me out. I didn't like that. That's all Blair Witch activity just waiting to happen. To live that far on the end, you live off a highway road, and to live that far off the end, right? But nothing else is there. You're like at a dead end. That's where she lived, on a dead end. It wasn't like wood, but you could see straight all the way out there into like a country field of nothing. Like, I didn't like that. That in itself was all pitch black. Like, that was just off the hook. So I was like, yes, I need you to, matter of fact, come out here and get me, because this is not going to work. Me getting out of this car, I had a remote car alarm starter and everything, and if I wanted it to go off just to get some sirens going, because I was in panic mode just then trying to get out the car. And my mom couldn't understand that. Like, dude, why would you want to, you need to come home? Because even my mom was kind of like leery and fearful of me leaving out on even their little highway rural road. But I would in fact take a shortcut. Yes, I would. That rural road will go all the way down as extended. I would like come at the end of her street where the stop sign was, see the little road or whatever, go on it for a few feet, whatever, and then turn down a whole different path just to get out of there. Because that sort of thing, I don't like stuff like that. I never had. My mom didn't like it either. But, and me saying what I'm saying, that was only the first time I had ever really, besides my grandfather living out in the country, right? First ever experience, because see, even my mom told me that. She said, you know what? Anytime you go out there, anytime you go out in a country like that and you're on a rural road, those type of places you in fact want to stay off of, a rural road. Because people have been known to get killed out on rural roads, because a lot of teenagers trying to be having fun and all that other stuff, that's how they speed up and sped off and all that other stuff, playing on them back roads like that with new cars and stuff like that and flipping them over. So, but going back to what I was saying, I got carried away. A gravel. So the individual who I spoke on, my friend, she's in fact relative but not blood. She's extended family. Yes, she is, right, through my dad's side. But I say friend. Yes, I do. Terminology. So that gravel right outside of her house. They had a small house. It was gravel right there. And when I would get out the car, with them not having any lighting in the environment except on the indoor of the house, right? You couldn't really see too much, but I just remember that one thing of that gravel sitting right there. Because if I was able to see and there was no lighting around us, that goes to show whatever the percentage of illumination on that night or various nights of when me and his friend was outside next to her house, that goes to show that if trees are not obstructing the vision, then you can see, because gravel in itself, once again, is a light color tone. It's light, but not too light. It's more of that whitish gray, depending on. Their gravel was more lighter, as I remember. It wasn't, I can't remember precisely, but it was almost like a, it looked at almost like it was cream color, but not. Not more like that gray color, but even that's light, almost. The moon would hit that and you will be able to see it a little bit. So, I think I'm done with speaking on this. Yep, so that's you, the viewer, too. If you don't need to be out on a rural road, because my mom, I used to be like, what is she talking about? Mom is going on and on about, you know what? Because first off, the country, I remember when I was a kid, I used to say, you know what, I'm going to buy me a house out in the country so I can, you know, have loud music. You know, when you're like a little kid yourself, you have these dreams. But then as I got older and I got to hearing about hitchhiking stories, you know, and you get to seeing certain movies that be happening, or you hear about certain things that have happened, like the trash bag killer. I don't know, I was looking at this book in the grocery store about serial killers, right? And there was, in fact, a killer known by the name, I didn't get his first and last name, but he was known by the name of Trash Bag Killer. I think back in 1978 or something like that. You hear stuff, and you'd be like, you know what, I don't know if I really want to like live out there. I might go camp out there, but I don't think I'm going to try to live out there, because anything can come knocking at your door at any time of the night. Yes, they do. For some weird, strange reason, some mental ill you gotta be if you're a killer, right? Some of them people just come hitchhike along the way and be knocking on country bumpkin folks' doors, you know, asking, can I get a plate? Or something crazy like that. Like, you don't want that sort of thing happening while you're staying out there. Because I remember I had a neighbor, and this wasn't even in the country. No, it wasn't. We lived in the city, in the hood. And on top of that, he was a white man, right? This before all the hood niggas start moving in, right? He was living amongst us 2 doors down, and this man always kept a shotgun. He was like a full-blown alcoholic. Yes, he was. He was old enough to be somebody's uncle. I don't remember a whole lot, but I remember that. He used to, in fact, step to the door and say, yes. I remember one time he answered the door like that, freaked me out. I told Mom, I flipped all the way out. This white dude, he was so cool though. He was so cool with me. He had 2 dogs. One was like a Labrador, and the other one was, I don't know what that other one was. It was like a black breed, but it was real big, right? And that was his babies. But he would keep, I could tell he was from the country, like Arkansas or somewhere crazy, because this man would literally sleep with his front door wide open as well as unlocked. The screen door unlatched as well as the big door unlocked. No bolts or nothing, right? But I was out because with the houses being that tight, you could actually see, and not only that, the street light actually glowed over his house. So I was like out, right? And it's nighttime, like 9, 10 o'clock, right? And so I knock on the door because I'm like, why is your dog all the way down here? Shouldn't your dog be a little bit closer? So I walked the dog. The dog was huge. The dog was man over me, despite me looking like a tomboy. I walked the dog back over to the man's house to let him know your dog is trying to run away or something, right? Soon as I knocked on the door, he said, yes. And he literally pushed the door open with a shotgun on me. despite him knowing who I was. For him, he found that to be funny, right? But I kind of was like in shock because I'm like, well, what is going on? But he basically was letting me know, as well as anybody else that wants to step to him, this is how I live. I live with my shotgun next to me when I sleep at night. He would literally sleep in a chair sitting up, and you could literally like walk up to his house, look in the actual screen door, as in peek in, because the door to be that wide is to see everything in the house. His house would be all the way lit up. Who does that? Sleep with the door open in front of the TV and you way back in a lazy boy chair just sitting there with your shotgun. Knowing somebody can get in and take it from you, but he didn't care. But yeah, he was like, yes. Push that door open with that shotgun. I said, oh, this dude is not playing. I had a conversation right there with him that night about safety, precautionary, and how he chose to go for a shotgun over 9mm. Yes, he talked me almost half to sleep that night over the fact of why he actually would keep a shotgun on him. I said, that's beyond believable. Like, don't they do that down in the South, right? I had never myself seen anything like that because remember, I was young. I was in fact in my early 20s. So I was like, oh no. Not saying that's redneck activity. And yeah, he ended up later laughing with me on that, going, yes he did. Yes, he did. It was off the hook. See, sometimes you come across people and some things with stories that you never forget. Cause I'm like, dude, if he didn't know that it was me, I could have got possibly blown away in the process of walking the dog back and saying, you know what? I knew him by name and everything, but that was that's why he did that. He was like, yes. Like, don't do that. You spook folks out. Do not do that. So I think that's all to be said. For something to go on for this long and yet no one to be found, that's almost like a standstill, like a stop. You know how you're expecting waiting for something to happen, as in a closing, a closure of somebody coming back home, a rescue of something, and yet when it doesn't, it's like almost like a stall out or something. Because I don't play sport, but that's almost like the game has been thrown and yet there's nobody there to like catch or anything like that. As in us, the public, waiting to possibly see and perceive even ourselves what is to happen next. Because even you, the viewer, if this is your first time hearing about Asha Degree, or if you never heard about her before, yes, I just said that, repeat it, right? Or even if you have, even you yourself, 18 years here, gotta be saying, well, will the child ever come home? If she's alive and not dead. Despite me, I do kind of feel like the family has something to do with it. I said that numerous times. But say if you, the viewer, is thinking opposite than me, and you feel that she's still alive, right? I'm sure you thinking, well, what in fact comes next? Like, how will she ever be found? And not only that, if she's alive somewhere, where could she possibly be? As in, what could be going on now that she's a young adult in her early 20s? Oh, she's not early. She's actually, how old would Asha be? I think she'll be like 26, if not already. Let me calculate right. Let me make sure I got her age right, because I myself be messing up. What year is it? 2018. That's just crazy. All of it's just so crazy because, you know, abductions happen every day by the minute and the second, right? But when no one returns home, it makes you question. Say if Asha did leave and say she's not dead, I keep thinking and sensing she's dead. But that just, I'm questioning anybody that goes away as in an abduction. It makes you question, how is their life? Because see, some of these people who are in fact, whatever they are that kidnapped, something has to be somewhat semi-wrong with them, right? But not only that, I don't think their living conditions is all that great. I don't think. I'm thinking a kidnapper's living conditions will possibly be full of filth or something. Which is why I stated what I stated. If you are kidnapped and you're living with somebody, because Castro, was that his name? In relation to Amanda Berry and all them, Castro, he looked like he wasn't really that type of clean type of individual of keeping stuff up. Even keeping up people that he's keeping hidden away. So it makes you wonder, if somebody was to be kidnapped, how are they living? The child, you know, the young now young adult, how are they living today? I stand in question of that. Yes, I do. Because you and I know, you know, to ever be kidnapped is to infect, you know what I'm saying? To infect, hopefully somebody is going to provide a pair of clean clothes or something in that form of fashion. You just don't want to be kidnapped somewhere a long ways away, even in another country, somebody, and not be taken care of in the right way. Asia will be 28. Did I say 26? I'm 2 years am I 2 years behind? That shows you how quickly time has passed. That's what that shows. I'm off by 2 years with this baby because for some unknown reason I keep always want to say that she was born in 1996, but she wasn't. That don't make sense. I literally will hope and pray that somebody that possibly took her and even maybe killed her, I will hope that they ain't black. Because see, what I don't like about your average standard black person, yes, let me say this, let me be clear enough in tone. I know you can hear and understand the dial tone as a no call back. The ones that feel they're offended by what I said and say on a day-to-day basis. See, what I don't like about some black folks, they gonna watch this, not all of them. Shouts out to the ones that are good-hearted and understand and knowledgeable. But what I don't like is how many blacks sit blaming white folks, and I spoke on that on my other video. They sit blaming white people, right? About all type of things, right? But some of them are some of the ones sitting, recording and rapping songs about who they gonna kill and shoot. And not only that, they sit and shoot, killing their own, but they want to blame somebody white or blame some other race or nationality or whatever you choose to call it. I don't like black people like that. And I hope I ain't hurting feelings, but if I am, just catch it as you will. More likely to be some young black male that get offended in me saying this. Because to sit up here killing your own and then want to rap about it, right? Or even commit a crime. See, even in that, you got black people that they commit murder, sometimes even on their own family members and stuff like that, and then go blame white people on how they can't come up in life. Well, if you wouldn't have did that sort of thing, maybe you can in fact make a come up, because what goes around always comes back around, and it should, right? So I don't like stuff like that, because you do have you know, families, once again, black, who do in fact kill their own, right? And then they'll just stand blaming the white man for everything, as in every wrong that's going wrong in their life. And I guess they just choose to forget and put that sort of thing behind them over the simple fact they went and killed somebody that looked like them. That don't make sense, and it never will, possibly in my own right mind. To do something is to kind of own up what you did. That's all I'm trying to say. That's not to try to lock somebody away, as in throwing away the key. But if you did something crazy, even in the room of a crime, and you're black, and you did something, say if you took a child and even kill her, and you look like her, then stop walking around blaming other races of people, such as the white man and everything else. We're tired of hearing it, and I ain't even white myself, but all of us are tired of hearing that type of thing. The mindset. The sociopath that even when they don't want to face themselves of being a nobody. Many of them are. The hip rapper, if he's not chasing Beyonce and all them, possibly is, which is why he probably won't get a chance to see this video, because to honor too many people outside of yourself and not even play your own position of wanting better for your own life and other people around you who are black, that's to in fact call you a loser. And I should say that, and I just did. I myself am in fact marking on somebody's territory, and me calling out many blacks and where they don't play their position and wanting to educate and study and learn something which can further themselves. And not only that, the sadness of all this black on black crime type of affair, and then blaming police for everything. And then you even got fathers out here educating their own kids to make gangsta music, as in killing and shooting other people that look like them, and yet they sit around blaming white people. What type of sense does that make? That's stupidity. That right there shows no common sense logic, because you know sooner or later, even that child or that whoever you're raising as your child's son, yes, gangster rappers and all this, a day will come where even your own child could possibly say one day grow up, turn against you in the film of the in the relation to the rap itself. Father and son, father teaching his children to commit acts such as rapping on a recording about how you shot and killed somebody, and yet you never. That in itself is self-incrimination. Yes, it is. It's sad, and it makes all black people look bad, is what I'm trying to say. And even that rhyme, as in a call out, spell out. I'm thinking to myself, what grown man will want his child to follow behind him in the realm of the form of having that child look like him rapping on the album, talking about he will blow somebody's brains out on the album, knowing that when he gets grown and he gets involved with other people that say murder somebody by possibility purposefully or even accident, that your son is going to in fact go to jail with whatever else that is in jail. That sort of thing tends to happen. That's why you don't groom your children in rapping and gangsta and wanting them to be like you in that form of fashion. Because if the parent is going nowhere, more likely the child is in fact going nowhere in even that. And stop blaming white folks, because even that looks sad. I'm saying, they say to blame other people that don't look like you is to in fact form a cop-out. That's like Russian roulette in itself, I'm saying. To sit up here blaming somebody that don't look like me, and yet they didn't even live in my household, and yet I'm doing all type of damage to my own people, is to not in fact blame them. That's Russian roulette in itself. Because time could even tell in that. I'm saying, and where you go, because even to sit side by side with white folks is to not really sit and worship them. But at the same time, we are human beings on this earth who in fact need one another when we need one another, even in resources. Business people know that. When you need someone, you just say you need someone. That don't even in relation to, no matter, yes, how they look. Depending on the situation, you will in fact need somebody that looks different than you, despite you being black and bold, right? Because shades are here on this earth for various purposes. We all serve different purposes without even shade playing a part in that. And yet we all need one another, because if we didn't, we wouldn't even be here, of all kinds of different people, as well as races. So even when children go missing, even their parents need somebody sometimes that don't look like them to find them. in the form of police, FBI, and everybody else. Even if it's media, even if you feel they didn't completely do their whole job. But I just can't get with this whole thing, blaming the white man for everything. That's a cop-out. Because if I'm doing what I'm supposed to, there will be no need for me to even blame anybody, because I'm too busy doing what I'm supposed to. Right? And no, that is not a black woman syndrome of the form and the figure of the anger as in coming out of me. It's just spelling what out is just what is. The issue in the black community. Even if it's divided and all sporadic every which way. Right? Can't sit blaming somebody you never met. Because one day, like I said, I go based upon nationalities, as in various ones of the reason why the universe or even God will create us all different, looking different, right, to serve various purposes, right? But not only that, on top of that, there's more to be said about that. People out here using other races as a cop-out will one day be forced to bow down, yes, as in obtaining from the very people they're blaming and slandering, right? A day will come where the very people that you're sitting up here blaming for slavery and all that other stuff, a day will in fact come when you will need those people. The people that don't look like you, the white face or whatever you want to call it. The black face in fact will need them. Despite what has happened in slavery and the 40 acres and a mule, whatever, that all will be set to the side. Because even some people in fact need blood transfusion or even bodily organs or whatever else. And the game will in fact be laid as well as a table set and showing you where you in fact need somebody. Because if a heart transplant is needed, all that little race game of who you hate would in fact be set to the side. It has to if you want to live. I am completely, totally offset in me being on the track and how I state stuff. What I'm trying to say is I'm completely different than your average black in how I do stuff. Even in how I operate. How I tell stories and all else. I'm different. I don't want to sit watching celebrity and when I know and understand marketing in relation to that, of how even that is not real. They're just selling you a product. The celebrity, yes. They're selling their face, and that in fact is a product, but the story that goes with it is not real. And yet your average person doesn't even know that. So people that look like me, as in the brown shade, once again, as I stated before in my other video, put down the rap and pick up a book. Educate yourself. Because see, there's advantage. You got to understand, like they say, hip-hop music, they say a lot of times, you know, because in relation to the percentage, supposedly there's more whites on this earth than blacks, right? So supposedly more whites supposedly buy hip-hop than say blacks, right? But even white folks have an advantage in even that. I'm saying you got to understand what I'm trying to tell you. That's why many blacks need to get smart. Devise a plan of intellect is what I'm trying to say, in the realm of a book, as in picking it up outside of the rap. Because this is where whites in fact have an advantage pertaining to listening to the rap themselves. See, with them growing up, young white kids, their parents teach them about education. Even if it's only a single household, as in the mother is just raising the child, or even the father is just raising the child, they're going to want to know, not all of them, but many of the ones that were middle class in the past, and even higher class, will want their child to pick up some type of book, because they know and understand entertainment is just childish game. A day will come, in fact, young child, where you will have to grow up. As in grow out of that sort of thing of even the realm of entertainment, right? If you're not working, doing something pertaining to being a celebrity or even working behind the scenes, if you just want to be a young white boy walking down the block bobbing and singing to the rap songs such as Snoop Dogg or whoever, right? You're going to have to one day work up or grow up and get a job. That's what white parents tell their children. So a lot of times they force them to go to college and stuff like that, and many of them pay for it, right? But even if they ain't got the funds to do that, some of them say, you know what, you got to get something. You got to get a scholarship, you got to get a grant, you got to get something to go to school, because growing up is part of the process as in life. So when that's their backup plan, after they sit listening to rap and bobbing their head for so long, it gets to when they're about, like, say 30 years old, when they say, you know what, mom and dad said it's time to grow up, so I'm gonna just go ahead and get rid of the rap album and throw it in the trash where it deserves to be in the first place if it's not feeding my mind with anything. And I need to in fact go to school in the form of progression, right? But that's where I said it was the advantage. And white kids sitting listening to rap, because rap in fact exposes them to a lifestyle in which they might not never live. But even diversity plays out in that. But once again, even to be exposed in rap and say come from the suburbans or wherever else outside of the hood is to not want to go live in the atmosphere you never grew up in. That sort of thing you listen to, you bob your head, you hang out with somebody like that, but you don't get involved in criminal activities such as that. You leave that sort of thing alone, because remember, you didn't come from that. But these black kids, they don't want to listen to nothing you tell them. You tell them pick up a book, because even life itself has problems in which need to be solved. You can't just be a basket case walking around listening to hip hop and listening to Nicki Minaj and whoever else and then saying, you know what, I let life solve my problems, and that's to be said about that. And then you wonder why you're broke and can't make a come up and knocking people upside the head with a beer bottle in a nightclub, trying to emulate somebody you saw on Desperate Housewives or Housewives of Atlanta. Let me get the title right. These young girls sitting up here knocking NIGGAs upside the head with beer bottles every time they get mad in a nightclub, putting somebody's lights out, and even that, right? Now you got a charge and you're going to jail. Now when you come out, you can't even get a job properly because you just emulated something that wasn't real from the beginning. Reality TV shows are not real. Remember, I work behind that sort of thing, as in helping to actually write out stuff in scripts. If I wasn't a writer, I would not in fact be standing here. So I in fact served my position in the past. Yes, I did, in relation to reality TV shows, as in the realm of scripting, even where black celebrities, yes, women and even men, supposed rappers that did their thing as in their play, none of that is in fact real. And yet the majority, as in black young individuals, like to emulate that sort of thing. But remember, if a celebrity goes to jail, they got enough money to make their way out. And even sometimes when they're playing like they're going to jail through mass media and all that, a lot of that ain't even real. It's been formulated. Ask Chris Brown, and even he know, because even he loves to play games with media and mess with people's mind. Michael Jackson was another one. None of that is in fact real. Some of them in fact get themselves in situations that are in fact real, but the majority of it is not real. It's marketing game. But as I stated, many of these young individuals like to sit up here and emulate what they're seeing on TV. But the emulate too much is to in fact go to jail. That's what that sort of thing lead to, be breaking and cracking people over the head with your knuckles and doing drive-bys and all that, just because you seen somebody or heard Jay-Z or whoever rap about it. That sort of thing send you to jail. And it should. Because nobody wants to be an innocent bystander losing their life in even that. As in the playground and dirty mess of even that. That's a tragedy waiting to happen, emulating a celebrity which is not selling something from the beginning. Most of them are not even talking about nothing. So why would you even want to follow even that? Why? Why, oh why? Why would you want to even follow something like that? Why would you want to follow a celebrity? Because see, even that can in fact guide you into darkness. Following some celebrity you don't really know. See, I know the game. I know all the industry. Rap industry, major labels, all that commitment, and as in marriage and how it's done in the form of the music industry. I know and understand the game. Trust and believe I know, even pertaining to mass media, as in the prepping and all that other stuff for press. So to be a shot call is to say, right, as in to pass the ball. People need to get on their game, as in get on the right track and stop losing footing and trying to follow people you don't know. Yes, I said that. These rappers, these young whoever following whatever they see on TV, leave it alone. If you don't know what you're doing, leave it alone, as in let it go, because that sort of thing Yes, yes, it can. It can mess your life up. Let me say. So that don't work out. You got people right now that want to sit on Facebook and Twitter and other places sitting talking to me about some celebrity, and I'm like, look, children are going missing and completely unfound. Right? People are dying. And not only that, black people are in fact killing their own. And you want to sit up here and talk to me about all these different celebrities that ain't serving nothing? Many of them I care not to know and don't like. Because there's a few celebrities in which I know certain things personally. Yes, I do. As in a communication level of even when they disrespect their own team, putting them down and stuff and kicking them off after they use them up. And I'm not going to even say no names about that because I've even mentioned that before. Which is why stuff like that make you focus on real people. Yes, it does. Oprah Winfrey herself is a real individual, let me say. Despite many who don't like her in the industry. The majority of people in the industry don't like Oprah Winfrey, but so what? She's doing what they're not, which is why they don't like her. Everybody in the industry puts on a fake face and a fake front for various reasons of pushing even their own way, getting to the top, and sometimes hitting glass ceilings, right? So people will not like you for that sort of thing because they failed to make it. I think that's all to be said about that because I'm a real individual enough to say. I mean, to not learn something and educate yourself is stunted growth. I just be like, what in the world? You got all type of diversity all around us. There's not just one race. People like, oh, it's just the black race. We're just the dominant. No, that does not make anything whole. Logic and reasoning skills even tell in that, as in play out. You can't create a whole from something that is divided in the first place. If black people are divided, then that in a sense, that's not a whole. You got to put Asians, Hispanics, whites, and everything else in order to even get a whole to begin with. Because it takes parts just to create a whole. Absolutely nonsense, some of the way these people think. Some of the way these people think, and yet I'm forced to call them out, which is why they're nowhere to be found around me, because those type of people, in fact, I put them outside of my atmosphere, as in my zone, because we don't get along. Their mindset is completely warped, as in messed up. They can't see in the way that I see things. And yet with them not being able to see the way that I do, as in an abstraction, I see things in the form of abstraction, but they don't, right? So they get pissed off because they feel that, oh, you're like the white man. Well, so be it. Well, I beg to differ on the question of, well, what are you? You should be picking up a book and putting down that rap, because see, that rap, I'm thinking to myself, hold on, wait a minute. Before I cut this video off, I'm thinking, hold on. Tesla is in fact the biggest thing, as in world renown, right? Right now. Setting a car in the form of a Tesla in autopilot is the biggest thing you can get. Remember, it's the biggest thing you can get. You can in fact get a Tesla like that for, is it 35,000? And then you add like 9,000 or 19,000. There's a Tesla out here. I don't know if it has autopilot feature, but it's somewhere around $49,000 that it's affordable for the everyday man and woman. Yes, it is, right? So we know Tesla is the biggest thing out here, as well as NASA. Because NASA has to know and see all out there that if something strikes down, then we got to move away, and it might be out there, right? And so you got people like will.i.am that do investment. You got Pharrell Williams that team up, right? But nowhere else do you see anybody that is making trap music, such as like they play all on the radio in Atlanta, where everybody want to be so hip. None of them people are really singing to a trap beat about astronomy and such information, putting that information to a trap beat in relation to Tesla, as in the sciences. See, the crack of strobe light is to just say, which is what I just did. As in, it all tumbles down. What I just did, I caught somebody out. They gonna see this video and possibly be mad about that. For the simple fact, how could you be world renowned on stage, be a celebrity, and not be singing and saying anything? And not only that, how could you see millions and millions of children that go missing and yet not even speak about that? That's a problem in relation to the pop culture. Yes, formulated related to American culture. That's an issue. Because see, the role of a celebrity themselves is to play their part as in calling out and speaking out on a field such as this, missing children. Black celebrities, yes. To want to be seen and remembered for something good is to do a good deed by even speaking up and calling out missing children. Shouldn't let that sort of thing bypass your eyes, but if you do, that's in fact a problem. And more likely a career like that is going to stall out, because what I just called out is in fact in relation to philanthropy, but more so humanitarianism. That's how you blow up. You put humanitarianism on your platform more than anything. That's how you blow up. So, and me speaking on that, I'm thinking, why isn't anybody rapping about the moon and Saturn and the stars and the diameter and the dimension of that and how close and how far they are from one another? Why ain't anybody doing that on the trap beat? Trap, yes. Any of these celebrities, because remember, to rap about songs and cars is to speak about nothing. But not only that, many of these rappers, fake, can't stand them, many of them are speaking about the dimension of cars and how big their chain is, how fashionable the big old earrings that they're wearing, how they bought their car, or how they bought their girlfriend or mistress or whoever seductive woman that they playing around with, how they bought her a big old purse the size of a Lamborghini or something stupid like that. They're spelling out the dimensions as in the precise detail, even in square footage of homes. That's a science itself that even themselves don't even know and can't even understand. Possibly why they could never cooperate in the first place on something as big as what I'm speaking on, putting the stars and planets to a trap beat and making that thing blow up. You gotta have you almost have to have a lackluster mind to not take that sort of thing there, because even the kids would love it. Yes, they would. And if white kids are more of the percentage population of buying hip hop, they're going to want that sort of thing, because remember, even their parents put them on to that sort of thing in childhood. Like I said before, you need to go to school and learn. Black kids a lot of times ain't gonna be too much on that, depending on how they was brought up and developed in the realm of child development. I studied that too in college. Right, because you know, there's a way to put education or something and make it sound good in the form of the rap. Yes, it is. So please stop making excuses, dear celebrities. I'm gonna post even this on Twitter, just enough for them to even see. I got something on my Twitter. Yes, they do. They need to see it. High world known celebrities, even them are starting to have kids, right? I'm thinking to myself, that is so crazy. You know how dangerous even that will be in the realm of Michael Jackson? Because even he liked it. Stars and all that other stuff. Moon. Why would he moonwalk in the first place? What you mean tell me nobody's making a trap beat going in discovery of what is, and the beat be so hot that nobody is irresistible? The beat itself, yes. Enough to other celebrities will want to jump on that beat and say, you know what, I got to get on this, as in collaborate. And we're going to pass this around to other celebrities, and we're going to put it out on MTV as well as BET. Our own platform to spread that. But to have a brainless brain, it's just to clunk out on even that. And yes, I had to call that out. And no, I'm not Lupe Fiasco, and even he did that with the kick push, right? Lupe Fiasco even spoke about some of this of what I'm speaking about. See, if I was a rapper, I would be so dangerous myself and waking up these black folks. The ones my age, I'm not speaking. See, the older adults that's black, I give them a passing with flying colors, because some of them, even their parents was on the lockout in the realm of not sports, but slavery. right? Some of their parents wasn't given the allowance to pick up books, so the next generation, more likely, that was passed out. I'm speaking about people my age and the ones a little bit older, the ones that's in their 50s. To not want to learn anything is to stall all the way out in the realm of not connecting the dots where you're supposed to be able to solve your own problems. But many just want to sit back, listen to who killed who shot John, and then not question why, so that they can even send that to the police in the realm of information to try to solve the crime, right? Because they practice a no snitch law, which is why I can't be bothering around them as well. I don't want to sit too close to any type of murders or people that have been involved in whatever and not trying to solve, because that poses a problem for even yourself. And an individual that's white, I'm speaking on this individual because even that pisses me off for the simple fact, why would you know I'm brown shade, knowing where I come from, but you ain't never lived one day in life in your past growing up in the hood of where I came from. I came from all hoods where it was gun violence and all type of stuff, right? This individual took the time to link up and have a relationship with somebody that's from that type of atmosphere, and they want to try to put themselves away from the suburbs and go deep into the hood and live that life. I had a family member do that. That sort of thing leads to crime, which in fact puts you in jail. Dear Suburban One, why would I come from the hoods of hoods where I escaped not one but two drive-bys, and I myself not want to go back? But people that have never been involved in those atmosphere, they want to sit, be white kids, listen to the rap music and say, oh, I'll get involved with that because it's so cool. No, it's not. It's not cool at all. And you'll find out as soon as you go to jail, because that's what happens in the end. People that want to live too close to the hood but never had any experience in the dealings, those individuals get completely taken advantage of. Because a hood individual has a hood mindset in the realm of survival. But not only that, to be involved or have somebody come around them that's not used to living in that environment, as in a suburban white kid, and they put themselves in that environment, that's for somebody from the hood to in fact prey on your vulnerability, as in misusing you and possibly abusing you and get you involved in something you don't want to be in, as well as pinning their drugs on you. So to stay away from it is to just listen to me as I say, stay away from that sort of thing. Young white kids need to listen to me when I say that. And that one individual, they get mad, and even them telling something, being told, even they get mad. That white young kid get mad over the simple fact they don't want to hear. I call them a kid and yet they're adult, but they act like a kid, right? It's time to grow up for many of us. It really is. So that is all to be said about that. I ain't with this whole cop out. Let me go blame everybody else and not do what I'm supposed to do. Because see, grown individuals that are too busy living their life, right? Too busy, they're not going to use somebody else, in a sense, as a cop out, a different race that looks different from them. Because how can they? They never got a chance to get to know that person that looks different from them, as in the skin tone color. If your skin tone is not the same, that means more than likely you haven't gotten the chance to get to know that individual to use them as a cop-out in the beginning, because all white people and all black people are not the same. No, they're not. So for me to even say, even though I had disagreements with white people in my past, because yes, I have in fact endured racism, and not only that, we had somebody in our family that was white that was very, very racist and can be very, very vulgar and telling us they hated us because our skin tone. But that's that person's problem. They're dead and gone, right? I still got to use common sense logic that a day will come where I will need somebody that don't look like me and resources. Even to go to the bank and get a loan is to in fact say, hello, how are you? Yes, yes, how are you? I need to come and apply for a loan to go to school or something like that. And I know you are white and you don't look like me, but I need you to help me out with this so that I can better my own life. That's what I'm trying to say. School loan, yes. So, that's all to be said about that. I gotta close this out. And I'm hoping we can one day find out what happened to Asia. Yes. Yes. As in, what was the cause, what was the reason, what was the defining moment that led up to even that, as in her disappearance, wanting to run away. I think one day that will possibly come out, as in work its way out, because like they say, what you hide sometimes don't, it finds its way on the outside for all of us, right? So I'm just compiling videos because everybody's questioning, and I'm questioning as well, and I'm holding more interest in the missing children. The field, yes I am. My interest is piqued by that. Because see, even mystery stands in that. Human nature is to be drawn to anything that is mystified, right? Pertaining to mystery. That in fact piques what you can't not see. In fact, piques the interest of humans. Because it's something in which you possibly haven't been exposed to. But once you start to unravel it, you're like, oh, what in the world? How could that have happened? When a case is solved or something, and you get to trying to figure out, well, why was such and such abducted? The longer you start looking, you're like, man, I did not know this type of stuff was happening. Just like that magazine that I came across when I was at the grocery store, and it was about the serial killers. I did not know that manufacturers or whoever, with that, I mean, the way the layout and stuff, how the magazine, Time magazine issues stuff like that from time to time. Time magazine, there's various magazines, but this magazine was all its own. The title of it is called Serial Killers. You can in fact find it. It was a $16 magazine. That's off the hook. That sort of thing, I don't know. It's good to show, but sometimes people can copycat like stuff like that. That's why I don't like when stuff is put out like that. Copycat. But yeah, I want to look more into that trash bag murderer. The murderer from the 70s, I think it was, that I spoke on. How he would in fact kill his victims. And I guess slice them up, dismember them, and throw them in trash bags and straw them along the road. That's crazy. That's in fact what that is. And on that, in relation to Asha Degree, I kind of wonder, seeming all black folks, including myself, have an interest of going down to Atlanta. I'm in question of when whoever put that pencil, I think they said it was a pencil that said Atlanta on it. That makes it questionable even in that, despite of me saying her family could have played a part, because remember the Atlanta children murders? Is that what it's called? Let me look that up, because I had messed that up years back in relation to me speaking that out. The Atlanta children murders, where 28 children and grown men and women were killed by two black guys. Was it brothers? Atlanta children murders. Atlanta child murders. That's what that was. That happened between 1979 and 1981. Atlanta child murders. So I was in question of when somebody placed Asha pencil, what was the point? If it said Atlanta on it, my question was, what was the point of them placing a pencil that says Atlanta on it? Were they trying to be a copycat or something pertaining to Asha? So many questions you just don't know. So that's to be said for now. Hope you enjoy your day. It's in fact turning night right now. It is. So I'm gonna end it out. If I offended somebody, my deepest apologies. And yet, the conclusion is to just say this. Everybody has public opinion, even in the realm of public scrutiny. Yes, they do. But to let that thing not get to you is to just let it pass by you. That's it. That's all. Don't let things really offend you too much. Take it with a grain of salt, as it's been said in the olden days. Yes, that.